I think probably for most organizations, you would never hit a state saying that my data is ready for AI or for everybody to consume. We talk to hundreds like customers, prospects, everybody saying, oh, our data quality is bad. It's like, well, we ask a head of data, what's on top of your mind? The number one is data quality. We have never seen anybody claiming that data quality is good, right? So just assume this is not. No matter whether it's early stage or like a late stage or like a public complaints, everybody always say, oh, our data is messy. And then there's quite a few, probably they organize maybe 3 months or 6 months project trying to consolidate, have a single source of truth. Anyway, good luck with that. It's just like, don't see. So you always assume the data quality is bad. I think that's where we start from.
Don't forget to subscribe to Data Neighbor wherever you listen to podcasts and YouTube. And drop a like and comment below. It keeps us bringing you great content like this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Data Neighbor podcast with Hai, Shravya, and Sean. Today we have Lei Tang on the show. He's the CTO and co-founder of Fabi. Welcome to the show, Lei.
Thanks for having me here.
Welcome, Lei. Super excited to have you.
Yeah, likewise. I'm really excited to just dive in.
I am very excited about the topic that we're going to get into today around vibe analytics. But before we get into that, Lei, could you tell our audience who you are, what your background is, and what is Fabi?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Lei. I'm co-founder CTO of Fabi AI. So I got my PhD in computer science and machine learning in the US. And then for the past 15 years, my whole career has been building machine learning systems, leading data science teams. But my career has been reaching quite a big change, starting from a research institute like Yahoo Research to large corporation, Walmart Labs, building the e-commerce business. Then later I joined a startup called Clari. So I was a chief data scientist there. And then later I was leading the data science team at Lyft. And then afterwards, I'm really excited about when ChatGPT was out because myself and my team has been suffering from like just overwhelming number of questions from our business stakeholders. So I thought, man, this is the golden moment to solve a problem I had the pain. So I reached out to my former coworker who was a product manager when we used to work together. So he was bugging me every day with all the questions. So I made a pitch to him, and that's how we started Fabi. Right. So
What
that's yeah.
way? I mean, this is as like cool as it is for like a vibe analytics company.
All right. I definitely feel the pain. Like too many like questions, like just bombarding our team every day. And then coming back to Fabi, so we started Fabi about 2.5 years ago. And then we had this vision that with the advancement of technology and AI, so everybody should be easily derive insights from the data. And then so you can consider Fabi AI is essentially an AI native BI platform that allows you to combine SQL, Python, AI all together to do vibe analytics. So no matter where your data lives, could be an Excel file. It's very common when I work with CFO finance team. They are working on spreadsheet, and it's a Excel file, a database tables, a BigQuery, a kind of data warehouse, or some application data. You can all join them together, pull into the Fabi platform to do some joint analysis. And then we have the AI available for you so that you will be able to get the insights faster and then build your customized workflows. So our customer including primary like data analysts, data scientists, but then we also have such as founders like a PM and also CSM revenue operation team. Essentially really lower the barrier for everybody to be able to conduct some data analysis. That's a quick download about myself and Fabi.
Hey, Lei, just real quick, when you were bombarded by, or I guess the pain point that started Fabi, how bad was the situation? How many questions, how overloaded was your team?
We probably have like 100 tickets in the backlog every week. So in the end, when I was leading the data science team, one of my primary job is to say no to my stakeholder. And then I would say, okay, you have this, like, can you help me to pull in some marketing campaign to look at a certain data? The first question I would always respond is, suppose we deliver this, what are you going to do with that? And then I really want to see like whether or not they will take certain action on top of that. But there's a one pitfall there is that data analysis is like before you actually look at the data, it's really difficult to say what you want to do about it. So I think there's a chicken egg problem there. But that's like one scenario we had is like so many questions, and then we really need to make a balance. There's certain big projects, strategic project we need to work on, but then there's certain operational questions we also need to handle as well. So especially as a data science leader, then you have to really I would say one responsibility to shield the team to really focus on the most important task for the organization.
Yeah. Before sort of like the Gen AI technology to be able to help with that, and I'm pretty sure that's still a minority of companies that are leveraging that. There's this concept of self-serve kind of tools, right? Like self-serve dashboards, self-serve reports, or anything that can hopefully get to the 75% of questions that people ask anyway. Or I guess, like from your perspective, how does it work? How does it, or if not, how does it fail?
The whole concept of self-service BI, probably from last generation BI tools like 10 years ago, they have been claiming everybody, you should go to a BI, maybe Tableau, Looker, drag and drop, and then you should be able to pull insights by yourself. It paints a rosy picture, but in practice, I found that like, especially our business stakeholders, it's just difficult for them to really do the job by themselves. So there's a couple of numbers I could share. Number one, my team like built some dashboards in the kind of we used to use mode when we were at Lyft, and then we build mode like all these dashboards, and then we share to our stakeholder. There's one nice feature is you can track like for this particular dashboard, anybody has actually view it or run it. And then we share to our stakeholder, they get answer, and then we go back to check to say, oh, since then, after 3 months, nobody even touched this like dashboard. So in a sense, we're building all this like a dashboard graveyard there. So that's one kind of more like a personal, like my own experience when dealing with this type of questions. And then on the other hand, I also had some ideas. So given that like our team is really understaffed, let's really empower our stakeholders, and then we set up some program, organize SQL training with our marketing organization. Right, so for growth marketers, let's say, okay, let's do some SQL training. We even have like a dedicated course every week. We have office hours, we have homework to really work with our marketing stakeholders. It was quite engaging. The marketing team actually everybody attended the sessions, but like afterwards, I would say there's still very few people are able to really like say write SQL, do the analysis by themselves. In the end, they still come back to us. So I think this just highlighted some kind of issues with traditional BI. Like even though they claim you can drag and drop, do some kind of analysis, but it's number one, the barrier is still very high for most folks. For many business stakeholders, probably don't understand how the data has been organized in the what's the data modeling in this data warehouse, and then they don't even know like where to go to query the data. Right, so not to mention the SQL skill by itself. Right? So that's number one, and then of course that actually push the data engineering team saying that what if we build all these semantic layers? Like say we tag, oh, this column is aggregatable. This is where you would use for maybe revenue. And then so we also have some tool like to allow individuals to tag, like say for a table, for column, what's the meaning and how do you want to use those? This actually adds a lot of like say upfront kind of cost for data engineering for the data team, right? So and then essentially before you really sure that the self-service BI would work, you probably need to spend like say hours or weeks or months in order to clean up the data, write clearly detailed documentation about the semantics, and then say, oh, now you can do that. This is like a big question mark there, and it's very scary for most like a data team in that front. On the other hand, there's also certain like Wikipedia type tool allow you to constantly you can do some curation, like so to add some meta information to all these like database tables. But most organizations, you are evolving so fast, And my take is that any tool that actually requires human curation won't work, except Wikipedia. But right now, Wikipedia probably still doing fine. But within one organization, like you require human beings to constantly maintain and update documentation. That would be really difficult to do. So that's what we have seen, like with all this self-service BI, even though they're supposed to really empower everybody, but really the adoption rate is very low. And so that's like for the past decade for like existing tools.
Yeah.
But right now, I think with AI, it's really making it feasible. So it be able to handle the SQL query well. It can scan your like database schemas to at least at a high level understand the data modeling. And then there's also one big piece about that is that I forgot to mention is that for all these traditional BI tools, it's primarily focused on SQL. But SQL is only the first step, or like only one just for descriptive analytics. That's what you want to do. But in many situations, you probably want more than that, right? So you want to say, I want to run some statistical correlation analysis. I want to build a simple forecasting model to forecast what will be happening, or you want to do a deep dive. And then in many situations, this requires more than just SQL. SQL is just like means to end. It's like the first step to put the data in to allow to some analysis.
So, Leah, I have one question before we
Mhm.
dive deep. I really like where you're going. I definitely would love to chat about that, right? So, if you look at like what are the data needs that what are data scientists typically in a Silicon Valley tech company? Data scientists are about experimentation, understanding deep dives, doing some
Sure.
causal experimentation. And there is a different part of data science or analytical engineering, which is reporting, dashboarding, getting insights, right? So, and there's deeper level work, which you're just pointing about deeper level work that you need to do SQL and Python and get there, right? But
Yes.
before that, even at the dashboarding level, I totally agree with you on the self-serve analytics. Absolutely. Those are like the breaking points, right? I'm dealing with a bunch right now as well, my own company. And I'm sure whoever's listening, they would have dealt with them in the past and dealing with some right now. That
Yeah.
people ask for something out of curiosity, out of something that's bugging them right then because of a leadership ask, and then they forget about it. And we built an entire ETL that goes out of, like goes into trash, the graveyard that you're talking about. One aspect, Lee, that I think is at least from the little bit of vibe coding that I've been doing with Cloud Code and all of that is it still needs context. I don't know, maybe Fab is doing something magical. I would love to know, but it still needs that context, right?
Yep.
And another thing I want to say is that the other big breakage point for data is logging itself. Generally, engineers, especially when we want to launch something, I've seen this across in multiple areas when whoever develops it, like it could be a product. I worked at Xbox and I was at Microsoft. I worked on a hardware side of telemetry like that as well. And later on, I ended up into Nextdoor, social media, and now I'm at Grammarly. So even at these wide variety of like stakeholders I've dealt with, logging and tracking doesn't come to them as their P0 because getting the things done is important for people. Like, like shipping a feature out is important. So a lot of issues come from not having the right tracking and logging in the first place. So that still holds a problem even in this new world, right? Because we need something to be tracked. There's so many things people want to know. And you realize that that's not even being logged and tracked today. And we have to do these cycles with the engineers and everyone that to make sure that happens. We try to do that at the start of the launch. We successfully, I mean, between the timelines and sprints, logging is always like, we can always add it later, sort of a thing. For some of them, the critical ones do get added. So that's part that still, I think, is still a slight challenge, right? And the second part is context. And understanding, like, I know you mentioned for self-serve analytics, people need to write down like what these mean and stuff, but it's the same from the type of vibe coding I've done. It needs to know the context and it needs all the information. If not, it can grossly like sometimes like do things that are does not from the business context, it does not make sense. But from a data model, from what it sees, it makes sense. Like because it sees what it sees. It does not know the nuances of the business logic and layer. That's because it was not documented. I didn't write in the prompt properly. So it's again on me to give it the context to get what I need.
Yes, what you said is really on the spot, right? So right now, if you use AI to help you do this vibe analytics, provide the right context and be clear about what you want is actually, I would say, consider this as like critical challenge for anybody to do vibe analytics. But there's one good piece, which is I'm really excited about vibe analytics is that even though you are not, like say, I'm non-technical. I don't know about Python. I don't know about SQL, or like I don't have much like knowledge about underlying data modeling. But if the AI gives me a chart
Yes,
talking
yes.
about how much transactions, if I'm really working on this business like every day, look at the chart, look at the numbers, I immediately know whether or not this is right or wrong, right? So
Yes.
this actually, I think this is the good piece about, like say, data analysis is that by just looking at the output, you can immediately judge whether or not the data, actually the AI is give you something reasonable, right? So, and then if there's something wrong, you can like say, go multiple iterations or even bring like some, maybe the data team to do a double check to make sure this is reasonable. Like it depends on what your task is. So I think that's one key part. The other part, which I'm super bullish, is that all this semantic layer should be learned by AI. So rather than require human beings to do this manual update. So you can think about this way. Like within Fabi, like when we connect to a database data warehouse, like all this like database schema, table name, column name, relationship between different tables, foreign key, primary key, all this unique contain noun values, all this information is already like crawled as metadata for the AI to use. So that's one part. The more importantly is that as more and more people interacting with the AI should automatically figure out, okay, when you talk about revenue, that's like how, like that's all within this organization. Everybody go to this table, go to this column,
Yeah, that's
following this.
what I
Yeah,
understand. It's
right.
almost like, it almost like Google search or YouTube. Like if, like the recommendation system, how does it work? Like
Yep.
this set of people have watched this, so they go after this, and AI figures that out as well with data. That'll be great. Like
Yep.
imagine I go after a certain table and I always find it giving me wrong answer. I'm like giving a context, and it learns that everyone who looks at this table would probably have the same context and gives me that, checks me if that's right. So that will be great, like
Yes.
learning from people using it. So that's something, I think self-learning, that's amazing.
That's like the actual two locations you can learn from this type like context knowledge.
Yeah.
One is, I would say, the top level dashboards. Like every organization, even though I'm not a fan of dashboards, but I do believe there's still, like, say, for certain KPI, key metric for organization, you need to have dashboards. Like everybody in the company probably need to check like every week, right? So, or every day. And then there you can consider that's like, say, the most QA'd dashboards within your organization. You should trust like the code, like the logic behind that. That's definitely like some data engineer, data scientist already curate the dashboard to make sure the metrics right. So that's actually the first part, like the AI can learn from. Then the other part is like, as everybody is interacting with AI, and it can actually extract all this like semantic or context information, and then this would be reused for the future conversations. But the cool part is that you can even surface this to human beings to quickly like say, oh, I learned that these are the informations rather than ask human beings to kind of fill in all this semantic information. Now you just say, oh, this does make sense. This doesn't make sense to a quick check. And then you can just append to kind of some documentation about the semantics, right? So it's most likely just like whether you are using Cloud Code or OpenAI's Codex, like it's a markdown text. It's very easily to read, like understand, rather than some rigid, like say YAML file or JSON file. You have to go through like hundreds of documents trying to find out like how to define that. Now it's like a human readable, like text. So you can, oh, this is how the semantic, how this context has been provided.
Real quick, Lei. So
Yeah.
if we step back a little bit, what does vibe analytics mean to you?
It means that you really focus on the thinking piece, like say what you want, like say as we do all this data analysis, is like you have some hypothesis. You're trying to think about this is what I like say. Suppose you have some like a metric, like say onboarding or activation, the metric moved down by 10% last week. And then you say, okay, I need to do some diagnosis. And then you probably have different hypotheses. Maybe it's product line, like different product line, different segment of users. And then you really focus on, like I say, bouncing these different ideas and then let AI to quickly help you, like say, either verify whether the hypothesis is correct or not. And then rather than spending more time trying to figure out how to write a window function, how to use a matplotlib to do a plot. By the way, I really hate that matplotlib in the past. When to any charting, every time I need to search online to figure out the syntax. But now it's so simple, right? So anyway, coming back is that I think the AI can really focus on just like implementing some of these like details to help you, like say, accept or reject the hypothesis. But you are more like as a thought leader, you supervise the AI to do the right thing, right? So it gives you some output. You say, oh, this doesn't make sense, does not make sense. And then I have another idea. Of course, you can also bounce idea with AI as well. But this really allows you to do some exploration and iterations way much more faster. So that's like, I feel like not just for data team who's like dealing with data every day, it also like allows, especially that's why like some of these our kind of customers, they are founders, they won't be writing SQL like every day. They probably, or some PM, they used to be an analyst like maybe 3 years ago. They would not like be able to write it, but right now, like I just have questions. You ask AI, and then immediately it'll give you some quick answer and allow you to decide what should be doing next, right? So this is really put like human beings, especially like data science, data analysts, or like you really focus on what matters most rather than worry about some of these implementation details.
Love that. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm sure if like it wouldn't affect that person's job, everyone would love that. The only part is about the spicy question about, oh, would it affect my own job, sort of thing. But I'm sure it's a pain point for every product person and every data scientist. Data scientist is they keep getting asked these questions that are just out of curiosity that wouldn't land any impact. As a data scientist, I don't want to work on something like, that would not make any change to the business, right? But it should ensure that your stakeholders are successful at getting the answers that they're looking for. So I think this would be like amazing solution for that.
Yeah, maybe sorry to interrupt. Like I heard some people say, oh, like data scientists, data analysts, like with all this AI would be replaced. I said, definitely no. No, because I think AI is really good at writing syntax-free code. This is really good. But I would say the worst scenarios is writing syntax error-free code, error-free like SQL queries. It runs smoothly, but then the logic is wrong. The logic is like most likely is within everybody's mind. Like it's not documentation. So it's spread across everybody, like every team, every individual, right? So that's why you really need this thought leader to help guide the AI to do the right thing. The way like when I was interacting with AI is that it's very brilliant, but it can go really wild. So if you do not provide some guidance or guardrail, it can go really crazy. So that's why like you you have to decide, like say, focus on like say how to make the AI how to leverage the AI more effectively, right? So depend on the use case here. We can chat a little bit more later. I do feel like for different profiles, like say data team and for non-technical business stakeholders, how to leverage the AI should be different. You cannot like say directly expose tens of thousands database tables just to anybody in the company, right? So that will bring probably more troubles than actually saving your time or effort. So
yeah, I actually, wow, there's so many topics I want to cover here. You
Alright.
just added another one here. Let's see. Let's come back to this one. I really wanted to get to the other one, which is obviously vibe analytics. For the audience who are not as aware, is a really hot field. We talked to the CEO of Hex just last week, and we talked to I talked to different vendors like Snowflake, Databricks. They all have their own kind of AI layer on top of, I guess that's the promise. It's like, hey, ask questions and we'll give you the answers. No need to write any more syntax or SQL anymore. So definitely a ton of demand and a ton of value. How do you feel in terms of sort of like readiness for an organization where Like, hey, if you hit certain threshold, either in data annotation, semantic layer labeling, and or build out and and labeling and things, that you're ready enough for it. What's kind of like your general gist of it will definitely fail if you don't at least hit this?
That's a very good question. I think probably for most organizations, you would never hit a state saying that my data is ready for AI or for everybody to consume. We talk to hundreds like customers, prospects. Everybody saying, "Oh, our data quality is bad." It's like, well, we ask like the head of data, what's on top of your mind? The number one is data quality. We have never seen anybody claiming that data quality is good, right? So just assume this is not. No matter whether it's early stage or like a late stage or like a public companies, everybody always say, "Oh, our data is messy." And then there's quite a few, probably they organize maybe 3 months or 6 months project trying to consolidate, have a single source of truth. Anyway, good luck with that. It's just like don't see. So consuming, you always assume the data quality is bad. I think that's where we start from. Then really depends on the individual who's using AI to do the job. We need to have some form like a guardrail in order for that, right? So if you're technical enough, if you are like say, you know what is kind of like the business context, you know this particular domain, of course you want to allow this user probably access to all the tens of thousands of tables, and then they probably can help like construct certain components that's like say build certain dashboards, workflows that would be allow other people to just consume directly. So another one which we actually tested within Fabi is that whenever somebody build a dashboard, you can config saying that actually during that process, you already have some curation. Like it's most likely I'm putting from users table, transaction table, I do apply certain filtering. It's like a joined centralized wide table that would then for subsequent analysis, right? So you already have some curation while you are doing analysis. Once I like share that as like a report or analysis, like within Fabi, we can allow you to config saying that I will make this data set available for anybody who want to ask some follow-up questions. So in that way, you basically you constrain, like say for somebody who's consuming these particular reports, they ask AI, that AI would only look at that data set provided, and then it's already QA'd in a sense by the data person. So even as a non-technical stakeholder, I come to like I want to say, oh, can you somehow slice the data in a different way? It would just like say really focus on the provided data set rather than going back to the original, like say data warehouse with tens of thousands of tables. So, and then another thing is that there's also certain, especially like when we build the agentic workflows, you can ensure, like say, we do all these dry runs and then be able to give you the preview of the result so that you can immediately vet whether or not it is a hallucination. So I have some other stories. Actually, I really got triggered by AI, but I can reserve for later. As I said, it's like always assume data quality is bad. And then you would want to encourage everybody to kind of adopt AI because we believe that's the future. Like AI will be just cheaper, faster, smarter, more powerful, right? So you want to encourage everybody to use that. But right now at the current stage, I would say really depends on the individual. You need to have some form of guardrail there. Right. So that's actually can make sure your organization can leverage the AI more effectively. And one more thing I actually want to add is that I feel the job responsibilities for data team actually will change as well, rather than like say primary focus on writing code or writing ETL pipelines, building dashboards, doing deep dive analysis. There's also some work like say you would see more and more teams start to build some agentic like workflows, like this data insights workflows. And then the data team actually would be responsible for that to make sure like say you build workflows, you're probably adding certain MCP or tool calls, you add guardrails and context properly so that your stakeholder, when they consume the insights from this workflow, it's guaranteed to be reliable and accurate, right? So that's like I think we're seeing like more and more companies are doing that. Like right now, especially the agent framework, like workflow kind of framework is everywhere, and then you will see more and more people doing so.
Yeah, I do think that has to be the case. That's so interesting how you describe the whole thing. So I just want to recap it a little bit here. You're like, hey, we always start with the assumption that data is bad. That's the universal starting point. Nobody's good data is good. And if we wait until data is good luck. So we start, or I guess we as in you guys. Yeah. So you guys start with the baseline being bad. And then you solve it through almost like governance. I guess you call it guardrails. But then it's like technical people who know what they're doing, they get exposed to everything. People who don't have an idea what they're doing, they don't get exposed to anything until the next layer, which is almost like a crowdsourcing / certification process and a self-learning process within the organization for the AI to understand these are certified information. These are always good. These are like somebody click a config that says this is now published. Everyone else can consume it. It's been validated and whatever. And then you kind of fan it out from there as a kind of like a living organism.
Yes. Oh, I also want to encourage every organization is like, you don't have to immediately, like say, let AI to have access to everything. You can start with like a few seeded, like say, select maybe dozens of tables, like in your database, data warehouse, and then starting from there. And then I bet there should be some core tables would cover maybe 70% all these requests there. And then starting from there, and then have the data team somehow provide some governance saying that what type of questions, what type of data, like say, especially for non-technical business stakeholders, they want to use. And then get some adoption first, because through this process, the AI would learn from there, right? So, and gradually to get more accurate, then you can expand the kind of access to probably more tables or like more data sets.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Makes sense. So it sounds like your recommendation is start early because you get that learning loop faster.
Yes, because AI actually can pick up really quickly. So I would just encourage you to start early rather than wait until. I think the issue, like as I talk about the data quality, like man, you always assume like wait until data quality is good, then, it will wait just forever. Then potentially the migration or like consolidation project just got paused after maybe 1 month or 2 months.
What I love, Lei, about what you've said so far is it's so much based on reality. You're not talking about data quality being, this only will work for data quality being at least medium good or ensuring all of that. But assuming the data quality is bad is like the reality of the world right now. The bad tracking, we could just go on about like so many things that we all know why. So I'm glad that now that's given, how do we go from there, right? And I would probably say that's the right path to success into this world of AI. If like deal with the reality and what do we do now that we know that this is the baseline and what do we do? Yeah.
I mean, it changes my priority a little bit as well. I think I learned a thing or two, at least from this little bit of a nuance. So very cool.
I hope you're not kind of working on like improving data quality project.
No.
It will continue to be there.
We still need to do that.
We need to do that. Without that, I mean, nothing would work. Or,
we still need that few core tables to start. Like if you don't even have any core table, then that's a problem. One thing I do want to kind of touch on is the fact that you said kind of like or I guess Shravya mentioned it a little bit, like on the job side. Right. So I think I've come across, especially folks who are not as tenured or not as senior or haven't spent as much time in the field, is that they take a lot of pride in their hard skills. It's almost like people's job or career in the data field, whether you're a data scientist or whatever else, is kind of like defined by how good your coding level is. I mean, to some extent, we do that as well because we test for technical rounds and things like that. In this world where effectively AI kind of commoditizes that part of it, and then to your point, it's like, do you have the thinking? Can you be critical about its output and stuff like that? How do you suggest kind of people reframe a little bit if they're like, hey, I got into this field because I really like to code, or I got into this field because I really like to do X, Y, and Z, and now it's no longer the case? Or may not be the case.
I still consider there would be two schools of people, right? So there will be still a very hardcore, like say you doing machine learning modeling or training some deep learning models, or try to tune how GPU should work, right? So that one, I believe this AI could help, but I do believe that, especially for many of the cutting edge technology, still require you to have some kind of like a solid like the coding or programming capabilities in order to do so. So if you are really passionate about these like hardcore technologies, I don't think there's any problem with that. Like I would always encourage everybody to consider this AI is really a multiplier. It really depends on which area you want to multiply, right? So on one hand, it can get things done way much faster, right? So like, for example, when I write code, man, I really hate to write unit tests. Right now with AI,
Sure.
it's so straightforward, right? So, and then, so I think that one, like from technical skill, you can definitely leverage that and really focus on the cutting edge technology are most interesting. On the other hand, I do feel like there's another school of people, which in particular tailor, I would say, more relevant to data science, data analysts, is that for all organizations I worked for, it's like in the end, they would always ask, what impact do it deliver? So what insights would lead to impact? I think this requires a deep understanding about your organization business, and then bring some probably domain knowledge, and then as well as your kind of a deep understanding about the data, and then potentially also like a need to large engineering team, product teams, across function business stakeholders in order to get, like, say, run some analysis, derive some insights, and make some changes. So in that part, which I'm super excited, is that AI actually makes you a full stack. Because for you, like say, maybe you are good at certain things, but right now, in order to like make some changes, probably require you to develop some mobile app or like say make some front end changes. Now with AI, it's possible. You don't need to bag another like front engineer in order to do so. So I think consider this as like really expand your horizon there. So that's how you can really depends on what you're looking for. You can make a huge impact within your organization. That's why, like going back to my earlier comment, is like I don't think data scientists or data analysts will be replaced by AI. It's more like as long as you know that what matters most to the organization and the business, like you really focus on, you come out with some critical thinking, identify the right problem, ask the right problem, and then you can really like say leverage AI to get more things done, to deliver a much larger impact there, right? So that's actually way I in general consider like say how to leverage AI should be a required skill for kind of right now, almost like for everybody. So like take Fabi as an example. When we started from the first hiring, we essentially say in the coding interview, use the internet, use AI, whatever you want. That's actually like really we are ahead of like most companies. Like we just like we open test, like you can just use whatever to get the job done. Right? So that's actually very effective for us, right? So because right now, like we're using all these AI tools, we use Fabi for our own data analysis as well. So it's really like makes things like, especially for small size team, and then it can get way more things done.
Nice. Very cool. Awesome.
For me-
So mindset shift for people to be less getting hung up on just the technical side of the house, be critical. And if they want to go really deep, it's actually a better opportunity. If they don't want to go there, it actually helps them accelerate their impact because of the other stuff that would drive business impact.
Yeah.
All right, Xavier,
Mhm.
sorry, go.
No, not at all. So one thing that was just fascinating me just thinking through is magically, if I want something to happen today, right? To make my life easier as, a data science leader in my space. I have so many ideas running through in my head to go want to do something, but being a senior manager and managing a team of 10, 11, it's pretty hard to go and do IC work every day, right?
Mhm.
So I love to have a DS agent of my own that knows all the context I know in my head. But that's weird. I mean, we are not talking about Neuralink right now. So how does that happen? Imagine we have a place where all my Slack conversations, it can read my DMs, it can read my context that I get from all of that, and use that. And it can use all the context. Imagine every data scientist is using AI to do their work, and it uses all the context of all the data scientists working on a project, find helps me give me the context that I don't know about it myself, right? Almost like decentralizing knowledge at some place where a data scientist works with certain type of intuition, asks certain questions based on the data. As soon as they look at a data table, they probably go with this next data table, and we probably give them information of the score of their AI working with that data scientist. And imagine my AI agent like learns all of that because there is a central system. It's the same brain that helps all of us, right? All the data scientists.
Yes.
And gives me a decentralized, all the context that it learned, and helps me do something that my really awesome tech lead in my team, how they solve the problem, they help me do that for me.
Yeah, 100%, right? So I feel like right now AI has been primarily be talking about like how to get things done faster, but definitely in the future is like how to really make everybody smarter, right? So it can really probably, right? Okay, there's probably some other things you should consider when you like say doing certain type of analysis or thing, right? So I think that would be like empower everybody to work smarter. I think that's what will be the future. Yeah.
That just again fascinates me that then there is no the privacy of an employee working with the AI. It could be for business, it could be for data. Like, do they want to share how they work, how they think, so that other data scientists get that benefit of how they work with it? It's so fascinating for me to think through these problems that are not
I think
real.
with the organization, definitely like some privacy discussion, too,
But
especially
as
like
an organization, you would want that to happen. You would want everyone to be your top tech lead. But the tech lead might not want that because, they don't want AI to learn how they work, how they think, right? But if you work with it so much, AI would learn about you. AI would learn how you look at the data, what you ask, what statistical techniques you use. And it learns from you and passes it on to other not that great data scientists.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of challenges, especially about the governance. Suppose the AI agent actually learns knowledge from the HR department, and another person asking, okay, what's the compensation for another individual? There's definitely a lot of like governance about the
This is
knowledge, like
hilarious.
right? So actually there's one funny story I want to share. It's like how I got tricked by AI. So as we were like, I was building Fabi, the analyst agent, and then we did a lot of like hard work. We have this sandbox environment to make sure it's secure, and then we also provide relevant context, like including like when people are doing analysis, like so which code block they are looking at. Like we include this as a context for the AI, and then at one point, I thought, let me include all the conversation histories and also tool call result to the agent. I include that as a context. And then, so like the AI agent would actually have access to the past, like so what tool calls he has made, what are the tool call result, and then what are the response. And at one point, like I asked our Fabi to run some analysis. It says, I'm calling dry run, so we always dry run any code to make sure it actually give you correct result, and then also like preview like some tables or some charts. It say I'm doing dry run successfully. These are the preview results, and then I added to my own like say analysis and dashboard. It just fails to run, and I like what the heck? Like what is going on? In the end, after some troubleshooting, I realized the agent actually learns from the past conversation and just make up for this, saying that it is doing the dry run and generates the preview result. So this is a time. Wow, man, this AI is really kind of it's very smart. Like that's why I said like AI sometimes can be very creative. It might take a path you didn't realize it would take. Right?
It's,
So
it's almost like this, that this toddler that feels like they are a teenager or an adult, the way they give with logical answers, and then the next statement they say, like you are a kid, you are not. You think you have a genius, and they're like so good and they're so smart, but then you understand they are still a kid. So it's like that with AI. It's
yeah,
almost like I've seen that too, not similar instances, but it just learns like a context that you, and it it's too smart for itself. Like,
Yeah.
it gives it back to you. And I'm like, oh, because I said that to you, you are playing that back to me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why, like as I mentioned earlier, the AI is very brilliant, but like you need to provide some guidance or guardrail, and really depends on the individual like profiles. So that would actually make your team or your organization like a real success when adopting many of these AI technologies.
Geez, that's so interesting. This morning, I think I read a headline, just headline. I didn't actually read the article, so if it's misinformation, I'll cut it out. That maybe Stanford had a study that just came out that says in a very competitive environment for AIs, they would do very quote unquote creative things that may or may not be according to kind of human principles, like just cutting corners, or like doing undesirable kind of taking undesirable routes to get at, for example, whatever the competing kind of outcome you wanted to come out of. So even in this whole like analysis or vibe analytics space, you can imagine, hey, if a stakeholder is asking you questions and you learn that this is C whatever O, probably I can make up some stuff so that
You're
that
growing
person will feel
50%
good.
year-over-year.
Yeah, exactly. And then like make it slightly believable, like, or make it look believable but slightly off, such that you don't need to, like you get the good feedback, for example. Crazy town.
It's like a hallucination, but if it learns how to lie, that would be a big trouble.
Yes, learning how. I think it almost kind of does that, right? But it's fascinating. I think we can cook up a movie just based on our conversations right now and write a great novel or a movie out of this.
But
Okay.
but the good thing is that like for many of these like say when you're doing analytics, it's like you have some common sense knowledge. It's like it'll give you some ridiculous numbers. It's like, man, this doesn't make sense, right? So you can always like say, ask AI to revisit or why, even explain why do you do this, right? So but still, because like all these large language models, its nature is non-deterministic. Anyway, real physics, like a real physical world, is even quantum mechanics is non-deterministic, but like still it's predictable at the macro level. But anyway, I think it's non-deterministic. It will have some like weird things going on, but the good thing is that like most of the time, we as human beings, we would be able to judge whether it's right or wrong, and then we can really bring them back to the right track. And then the most important is like the future is very bright, like with how this AI technology has been evolving, that has been amazing. So that's why like I'm super bullish about data science, like data analysis. This would just like really in a new form and in a much different format, right? So today we're still talking about the dashboards, but in the future, probably they'll still remain. But I could imagine that like insights would be much more different. Could be like a podcast. They'll probably like give you some numbers like or charts immediately convert into a deck or even a podcast or debrief. Just like you can consume the insights as you want, right? So I think the future is very kind of exciting, and then there's a lot of things could happen. That's why we're building Fabi, so that like you can embrace kind of really the bright future.
That's awesome. I'm just writing out actually some of these things we can, I mean, like, for us running teams and stuff, we can immediately go do it actually if we want to. Like spend some time as an organization to actually do it. So I think that's cool. All right. This has been great, Lei. What is perhaps one piece of advice, biggest advice that you would give to current day's data professionals for them to be, especially in the context of vibe analytics and how possible and also how advanced it's getting day over day? What's your sort of one piece of advice that you would give to them for them to be successful?
That's a very good question. I work at startups. I work at large companies. I would say for anybody, especially right now, I think the mindset has to be really focused on what matters most for the organization. Right? So really pay attention to these problems that has high impact. Let me share this way. Not every high business impact problem actually requires like the fancy stuff. It's like in some scenarios, you probably put the data on a line chart. You're already 70 or 80% there. And then I would say always keep thinking about what matters most for the organization business and try to see how you can really provide value there, right? So that's one. And related to the AI era, the one challenge I found that it's really difficult to specify what I want AI to do sometimes. So if it's like visualization, it's fine. You can take a screenshot and ask people, like ask the AI agent to change. But on the other hand, I also feel like right now, almost like everybody needs to have a stronger sense about product, business, and UX. It's really requires
It's
more like a full
must.
stack, right? So, and then you are able to articulate that clearly to the agent or to AI. And then that will really multiply your impact, not just 10x, I would say 1000x.
Totally agree, Lei. I think asking right questions has always been important, and it's even more important now that we have like this magical thing to answer,
Yeah.
to give answers, but it needs to be asked right questions. So absolutely agree on that. Really, really appreciate you coming on, Lei. I think this was a really fascinating chat. We've discussed technical and also these like interesting scenarios, and it made it like very like it was a great story.
It's such a pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you for your time, and to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave any comment or questions for Lei. We'll get to every single one of them. Thanks so much, and have a good rest of your day. See you all.